Can you tell us what is BASOK? What do you do here? What kind of activities are you organizing here and similar?
BASOK is, let's say, a leftist social center established in the end of the 2015. It's already almost 4 years. So it's a kind of a leftist center which wants to talk about the past, of course, just to bring more light onto the past, and just to talk about this like aporia of our contemporary life, in the terms that we have to reflect, to analyze the process of privatization in BNH or in Yugoslavia, which was privatization is it's inherently criminal. And that's the case because the social property or the means of the production were stolen by the states and then privatized from the states. And also there is an issue about labor force, which were, they owned the means of the production. They didn't vent, they were thrown into the war, and when they come back, they needed to be to reclaim them as a labor force, but they were not anymore like the owners of those means of the productions, and the factories were, like robbed, or they were just shut down, whatever. That's a new condition, and people usually are following this like a pattern of history, as we can call it, as a natural pattern of history, something which needed to happen, inherently needed to happen, but that's not the case. So we have to like also analyze the dissolution or destruction of Yugoslavia, destruction of our socialism, the consequences of our social revolution, and like the bourgeois revolution wanted to like mingle with the socialist revolution, with our middle class, and etc., 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 etc. So BASOK, let's say, focused its activities on 3 pillars. One is feminism, radical feminism, red feminism. One is social justice, but not in the terms of like bourgeois societies, like articulation and political economy of war atrocities or war crimes or genocide. So who benefited from it? Regarding that, we have to treat, of course, BNH, Bosnia and Herzegovina, is our country, especially 2 motives, because this country was won by anti-fascist struggle during the Second World War, and it was established as a state in the federal state in Yugoslavia during the 40s. And also it's some kind of, alternative, because it's not a national state. So we don't have that genesis which can Serbia or Croatia follow, like the national statehood, whatever. We have something quite different, which we could call like utopia or whatever.
We are in Republika Srpska, that is one of these entities, but we are in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the question is how, when you talk about the economy of the war, how is what was going on in the 90s actually interpreted here in Republika Srpska? What is the consequences of the war in relation also to all this privatization? Because we see a privatization of memories, privatization of histories.
There's so many, like how to say, those parts which were changed by the war. Economy, of course, also, and it has to be changed. But there is a lot of, how to say, contradictions or just conflicts between which are in your question. For example, there is also a conflict between Banja Luka and Republika Srpska. So let's say Banja Luka has a much, more history than Republika Srpska, but everything here about Banja Luka history is erased. But not only in the discourse of the Serbs, it is still kept as a history of Banja Luka, but it does, how to say, erase everything else which comes from other ethnies or other ideologies or whatever. So there is a clash between, I would say, many people talks about that, between Republika Srpska and Banja Luka, because Banja Luka is more or less historical place, has its own history. Some people didn't want to see the institutions of Republika Srpska here in Banja Luka, because it's taking all the all the resources of Banja Luka and just, how to say, making a flat ideological connections between Banja Luka and Republika Srpska.
So what will be the main?
But that's just one point. Banja Luka it's a city. Yeah, we can follow like theory. It's a place where your differences are met. But here now everything is more or less cleansed, not only by the architecture or the names of the streets or the city neighborhoods. But during the war, also the people had to change their names, which is the most terrifying, I think, so to survive here in Banja Luka. But in 1995, they had to flee from Banja Luka after the Oluja and Maestra in Croatia. So I don't know. Like we can talk now. Now we are living already 20 years after the war, and now we can reflect more or better. Like for me, like the like Serbs corpus in Banja Luka, not in Banja Luka, in Bosnia and Herzegovina at the beginning of the war had to step in to defend Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also to defend brotherhood and unity, and defend like those social like pattern which we built it during the Yugoslavia. Whatever.
From whom?
From the Serb corpus, yeah, from the nationalism, from the Serbia, from the Yugoslav, from the Czechnic parts, or in the Yugoslav People's Army, whatever. To defend Bosnia and Herzegovina as anti-fascist country and also as kind of utopia. That will be a proper engagement of the like Serbs intellectuals or Serbs like I don't know, whatever people who are engaged. So to keep on the trace of the brotherhood unity, or let's say brotherhood of the Serbs, Croats and Muslims of Bosniaks today.
Okay,
so this is kind of time we are living, which is a counter-revolution. We can say it better explain what happens elsewhere in Yugoslavia.
People today that were against, how they survive. I mean, what is the thoughts? What is the division? Is this?
I think that the main problem, because the public sphere is, it's superfilled only by the statements from the officials, and the people who lives, like beside those statements in TV or whatever in the public sphere, they are struggling with their own lives, like on everyday basis, and I think they would like to deal with these things, but the official government doesn't want to deal with these things. That's an issue, because people want to solve this kind of, at least all the people wants to solve, especially in Srebrenica. Let's talk about it, let's open it. But now, everything, but I don't know, this is the pattern of life with no alternative. So we as common human beings or labor force, whoever has to, accommodate to this kind of, life with no future. And that's it. And so if we are living in Republika Srpska, which is something really new on this scene, like in the region of Yugoslavia, I don't know. So I'm thinking like we will see some kinds of resolvement of this or results of this, like in some kind of future where we will not be anymore alive, something like that.
Yeah, in one of the last editions that we could see, and also you gave to us, the last that is talking about the constitution of the history of Republika Srpska, or it's actually a whole analysis that is going on even before Yugoslavia, and it is quite an abundant possibility to read and actually to think. There is a question that is posed is actually that all what is presented until today, it's a hard core revisionism of history.
When you are in power, you will always legitimate your position. Therefore, you have to erase some past, periods of past which you don't want to remember because they are in contradictions what you are telling. So in this case, like in all republics of Yugoslavia, they want, the process is to reconcile the historical fascism also with the contemporary or new national state. Here in Republika Srpska is not a big difference, and they will just want to connect, like they will just, how to say, use the facts from the history, but they will interpret them like differently in the manner which benefits to them. So like in Serbia or here, they just want to connect contemporary situations with the early bourgeois period in Yugoslavia or in the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, also to rehabilitate like the Chetniks movement, which were collaborators with the occupation forces, and etc., etc. But when you have a power, you can change it. You can do whatever you want. So, but this is also kind of pattern. If you want to live in liberalism, which is, nobody asks us, it's how to say, complementary with, I think so, with the EU policies or ideologies. If they can tolerate this, so it is our future to live in the, how to say, in society, where there is no justice, where there is no some kind of the objectivity, and it's a mishmash of everything,
This potential of the anti-fascist moment that you expose and this social justice, just to be clear, from your point of view, how to read this potential, historical, to which you actually pose also the potentiality for the future with what happened as a genocide in Srebrenica?
2.5 ways how to deal with this issue. It's one is strict, really, and it's to combat this system, but in sharp manners, even, you can imagine, or to flee from here, because, if you don't want to combat this system, you will not survive here, because they will just cut you from everything, the government or the officials or the business people, or to try to go to parliament. That's, let's say, a halfway, maybe to do something, but I'm not sure. So, if we do not combat this system, if we stay here, we will just accommodate. I mean, it will be just, you will just have to, not to be even a human anymore, just to be someone who, something like a slavery. Yeah? To flee from here is also a pain in the neck, because you have to start from the scratch outside, and it's not like utopia, it's nothing. It's almost, but probably you will be stressless about some things which you have here. And to go to the parliament is maybe both, but we need to have a lot of discussions about it, and how to change it.
What is the role of the narrative of the denial of genocide in Srebrenica within the wider frame of historical revisionism? To what does it serve?
I don't know, probably it's like officials connected. If we acknowledge like genocide, Dodik acknowledged 10 years ago, it will be ruin Republika Srpska, but not Republika Srpska is not just a genocide in Srebrenica, it's like ethnic cleansing in Banja Luka, atrocities in Prijedor, elsewhere, so many people die for it. And I don't know really that kind of. I think if the Republika Srpska wants to survive, they will have to acknowledge genocide, Srebrenica genocide. But everything is upside down. So if Dodik, who is now, let's say, a president on BNH, saying that there was no genocide in Srebrenica, but it was a huge massacre, and then he opens a student dormitory in the eastern Sarajevo, naming it like Radovan Karadzic, what we are saying. What we are saying, people, if we find a graffiti in Banja Luka which are, celebrating the death of 8,000 plus people or killed people in Srebrenica and around Srebrenica, is something which is quite perverted, it's a genuine politics to eradicate Muslims from this region. So that's Republika Srpska name. In these terms, also they are now also, how to say, comprador bourgeois, comprador elites, serving to Brussels or Moscow or whatever. So no genuine politics, we cannot even address our own interests, people here, because it's a periphery, of course, European periphery or even Russian Federation periphery.
When you said that Dodik is negating the Srebrenica genocide, also the Prime Minister, the present Prime Minister in Serbia, she also on the television for BBC denied the genocide. That was paradoxical because as a lesbian you think it's there a certain political agenda, but actually she proved very clearly that these are completely two different positions.
But there is a lack of our own like judiciary system, or the people judiciary system to deal with these atrocities. So let's say Hague Tribunal documented very well wars in Bosnia, but we need like Kataza, like a people court should be a Kataza, like to impose a capital punishment to those who made atrocities, like to give some. You were not supposed to do such kind of things, especially as we were brothers and sisters. And that would be like a full, I think, like, or better like dealing with the past, just to put them on court and to impose a capital punishment and to deal with those people who were charged in Hague, and not only Hague, in local courts. And that would be something like, you know. So if, you know, like, and if a court cannot punish, but it's not all about punishment, of course. If properly punish, and if somehow do an apology to the war, but just, you know, like prosecuting some people, a lot of the like legacy of the wars are kept in the field, and the local people, like ordinary people, which doesn't have any means, which lack the knowledge, have to deal with those things. In factories, on the streets, elsewhere in families.
What is the correlation between the perpetuation of these national chauvinistic narratives and the reproduction of neoliberalism, neoliberal politics?
But it's connected also to the privatization, and like that's like general place. What war didn't finish, so the capitalism will finish. You know, you will sell all. Let's say what's happening. Like neoliberalism, our government is. They will sell everything. They will just, you know, do the austerity measures, whatever, change the social structure. They will sell the public goods, and, you know, and the communal institutions. They will privatize everything. So the profit is only goal, and the maxima. Everyone is for itself. It's what is happening. So if everyone is for itself, you just can do whatever you want with the past. So there is no collective, like, say, resistance or collective answers to this kind.
How you could survive, and what was the processes in these decades that you come to such a thinking, and if it's a larger group of people?
After the war, I think the international organizations from the international communities brought a lot of youth together immediately after the war, and there was like a mushroom clouds of new NGOs established, and they collaborate beyond these like divisions, technical entities division or whatever. It was very nice because, you know, after the war you're really happy, you know, like enjoying, you're exalted about the peace, whatever, you know. You don't know even what the peace is, but, you know, something is going to happen better. And then you live your imagination about West, about these things going to here be
so
very better.
1996?
No, for me 2000, 2005. Yeah. But, you know, like, yeah, like those NGOs follow mainly the principle of citoyen, and like let's build a state of law, blah blah blah, which is based on the notion of citizens, until the 2014. Like 2014 shows that this like principle doesn't play a role in our societies, because it's a shallow, so you cannot gain any right even if you are a citizen. But let's talk then about migrants, who other people who are not citizens, etc., etc. And then like the let's say show, or the uprising in 2014 show the link between like neoliberal agencies and our organization of civil society. So yeah, something like that. So mainly the organization of civil society didn't want to support uprising, even they didn't want to print their documents or manifesto or whatever. And then there was a shift like to the leftist politics, and I think like from 2014 BNH had, like everyone is upset about leftist policy of maybe leftist uprising, and also some agencies, organizations included like the leftist, like maybe I don't know terms or whatever in their like agendas. But yeah, we have to be strict. For me, yeah, like when we established the center, one of the beside of these streets, we said like we want to stay loyal to the uprising in 2014. But and we started like to, because you cannot isolate yourself. You have to work with the organizational civil society. You have to work with everyone, of course. Not everyone, but you have to know what do you want to do and how do you want to do. We started like to pushing like our surrounding NGOs like to be more concrete and to try to think about their interest and also interest of the people living here. And I think what's happening is you have a fully filled identity between the organization of the international community and the organization of civil society here in Banja Luka. So it's full. Then there is a lack of subjectivity of our organizations here. So if there is no like any clash between your interest from your funders or you yourself, I don't know how can you be a political. So you don't think so. Whatever thing is coming from the West, you're just adopting it like as it like your own interest, but it is not.
Do you recognize some auto-colonial dimensions within that context?
Yeah, but I think I can say it's not as much as it was, but it's let's say very popular to think that foreigners are smarter than we are. So that's what we said. There is, we have stereotypes about us and also auto-stereotypes of us, which is also some kind of colonial approach, because we accept that we are savages or whatever, and that we have to be treated. And also we have the institution of OHR, institution of High Representative in BNH, which has mechanisms beyond the constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina to regulate the social relationships in BNH. But also that guy wanted or said that he wanted to invite military in 2014 to stop the uprising in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So with that fact, if something happens, especially in these quite small countries, we will have to deal with the foreign military forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So not only to fight with our government or our nationalists or our fascists, we have to fight also the interest of the international community here.
When we started the talk, we actually went toward the political elite that are actually having their ideological agenda. Their ideological agenda is clear. They want, they destroyed everything, and they will go on with this just in order to. But what you are saying to us, and I want to be very clear about this, is that actually exists an quite enormous group of people who actually think differently, who would like to make a change, and that, but it's no place, or they are absolutely not part of that agenda. So they are not in the media, they are not seen as such. They are nobody is coming to talk with them about this change, but it's always just about this state perpetrators that are put in the front. I'd like very much to be clear, because this, I think, it's quite an important moment.
If you want to, so if any change is going to happen, it's going to happen because, EU said it like. So like this, so there is also like neoliberal, there is no society. So we don't have a society. During, before the Second World War, we had many, the organizations of cultural, sport organizations, and the Communist Party had, in all of these organizations had their own people. Now, but just talking in the sense of politicization of the people. Now, youth it doesn't want to be involved in politics, and it's something which government also say to you. if the unions get out on the street, they will say, yeah, the officials will say, I see some kind of politics there, you know, what the fuck, you know, they are, you know, like they are, how to say, I miss the word in English, like the political, it's superficial, you know, when the official political says to demonstration, I see there's some politics is against the interest of Republika Srpska, but it is some kind of magical term, you know, like when we had also floods in 2014 and the government of this entity blamed like the other part because of it, because it was not only natural disaster, it was also social disaster, but you know, like you're just making some, let's say, magical links between, you know, like the other ethnic population and the floods, you know, like it's, how can you don't even have like an energy to treat these kind of, you know, statements, you know, it's, and yeah, maybe it's a capitalism, maybe it's a liberal democracy, everyone can say everything what they want to say. I don't know.
Would you use the term depoliticization of society in that sense?
Yeah, but if you depoliticize, or even if politics is banned, because the authorities here wants to ban any like disaffection showing on the streets, because the streets is has for them is a place of symbolical power of those who are meeting there, and then can do whatever they can, you know, protest. And the government told the authorities said, okay, we had a huge problem in 2014 with the, you know, uprising. Now we have to, like, let's say, equip our police for riots, and that was the conclusion. So we have uprising. We need more police. We need to protect public space from the citizens. Or whatever.
Did you manage to disseminate certain perspectives and critical positions among the people you associate with?
I think so. Like this center is also like, I think, which is good, like also subject of the not public critics, you know, from the left scene, but, you know, like in the circles, as we call it, as hating, like something which is very popular to hate something. So it's hated by, let's say, more radical groups here in Banja Luka or in other parts of Yugoslavia. But, you know, when you hate something, it's not really a strict analysis, it's something like hate, you know. We have to collaborate with also institutions or with all the, you know, let's say, neoliberal, it's not a consensus, but, you know, we have to work not to isolate ourselves from, you know, we cannot be strictly, you know, like, very sharp. So we have to be open to the other agencies, but also to try to, yeah, to push our agenda in it. But it's very hard. After the 2014, it's becoming very more and more hard to push your agenda and to push so elements of the lefty discourse in the like general discourse. Because it's better to be a celebrity and to mingle with the internationals than to, you know, like stand for your positions.
In your points of departure, when you were explaining the 3 lines of Basok, the first one was actually radical feminism, you say.
Yeah, but just to make a difference, it's not a liberal, it's not about feminism.
But it's, yeah. So, and this also, it's interesting because also in the leftist sector, this is seen like some identity politics, and feminism is actually a political stance. It's super important, it's strong. So also, why is this important to be emphasized? Not only practiced or having talks, but emphasized as a point of departure in of the center, and what kind of sensibilization or politicization you get besides the people and the female and male positions that stand behind.
I think the answer should be like clear and simple. You know, without feminism, you cannot really. You can work politically, but you cannot. You know, like once we wrote like feminism is there to stop us, like in something like just going directly and maybe just avoiding all other issues, and it enriches us. And you have to know the structure, and you have to know the mechanism of patriarchy, how it works. So it's patriarchy is not only common for the capitalism, but also was well known in our socialism. So it has some kind of, it can preserve in any kind of human relationships. So I think that it's, you know, fundamental for us to be a feminist here. And also we have to, we are learning on everyday basis, you know. So we also have to do with our socialization, etc., etc. Yeah, so many things.
Hikmet Karčić, one position that we had also an interview was besides this exposing very much as the fallacy of socialism, and this is true, the shifting patriarchy, actually anti-Muslim racism. He said that anti-Muslim as a sentiment and as a position was much present before already in socialism. And in your work, in your political engagement, how much this rethinking anti-Muslim racism, that is a specific way of racism. This racism is also connected very much with capitalism, it's discrimination, exploitation, expropriation. How much this is part of the agenda here? To the BASOK and in general as a political...
I don't know how to say, let's say maybe for those who will watch this, like we were raised here like in BNH, and it was quite, so they, like if I am, for me, so there is no otherness in those people. Like those people are, they are just us. Like it doesn't matter how they are Muslims or Orthodox or Catholics, Protestant, Jews, whatever. And I think like this house is also, in one sense, it's a monument. It's older than 150 years. It's a Muslim house. Also, and it's part of this neighborhood. So we have a people who come here, and they, let's say 80 years, 90 years, and they played here in this garden when they were just children.